foolishly inexpressive, that it is nothingness. What I call nothingness, however, was so plastered to me that was it me to me, and therefore became invisible. Like I was invisible to myself and became nothingness. The doors kept on opening, as always. Finally, my love, I fell, and it became a now. Finally, my love, I fell, and it became a now. It was finally now. It was simply now. Hello. Welcome. So today I'm going to read some completely random passages from The Passion, according to G.H. by Clarice Lispector. The Passion according to G.H. by Clarice Lispector, who is a Ukrainian-Brazilian author, or who was. I think she's passed now. I'm gonna be honest, I'm not even done with this book, but it's how did she know all of that? It's kind of a meditation on non-duality, I guess, and consciousness. Our metaphysical relationship to the world. I'm not even sure what to call it. But, okay. It starts off with to potential readers. This is a book just like any other book, but I would be happy if it were read only by people whose outlook is fully formed. People who know that an approach to anything whatsoever must be carried out gradually and laboriously. That it must traverse even the very opposite of what is being approached. They, and they alone, will slowly come to understand that this book exacts nothing of anyone. Over time, the character G.H. came to give me, for example, a very difficult pleasure, but it is called pleasure. A little intro, because this is a translation. If I go ahead with that grounding and consider myself true, I'll be lost because I won't know where to set up my new way of being. If I go ahead with my fragmentary visions, the whole world will have to change for me to fit into it. Something's missing that was once essential to me and is so no longer. I don't need it anymore, as though I had lost a third leg that up until then kept me from walking, but made me a stable tripod. It's that third leg that's now missing. I've gone back to someone I never was. I've gone back to having something I never had before, just my 2 legs. I know that I can walk only when I have 2 legs, but I sense the irrelevant loss of the third one, and it horrifies me. It was that leg that made me able to find myself, and without even having to look. It's hard to lose oneself. So hard that I'll I still have a little bit of a cough. So I'm sorry if I pause and unpause. What I was experiencing in the present had already been conditioned in such a way that I could understand myself as a result. And I looked over my life. I probably called that I sometimes truth, sometimes morality, sometimes human law, sometimes God, sometimes myself. For the most part, I lived inside a mirror. 2 minutes after I was born, I had already lost my beginnings. Okay. I'm not sure I even hold on. I don't know what to do with it. I'm terrified of that profound disorganization. I'm not sure I even believe what happened to me. Did something happen? And did I? Because I didn't know how else to experience it. End up experiencing something else instead. It's that something that I'd like to call disorganization. And then I'd have the confidence to venture forth, because I would know where to come back to the prior organization. I prefer to call it disorganization, because I don't want to ground myself in what I experienced. In that grounding, I would lose the world as it was for me before, and I know that I don't have the capacity for another one. That's like the opening paragraph, which is just, I don't know, so fascinating. And disillusioning too. But what could I become disillusioned about? If I was barely able to stand my merely constructed organization without at least sensing, maybe disillusionment is the fear of no longer fitting into a system. It could, however, be said that he is very happy who finally experiences disillusionment. What I was before wasn't good for me, but it was from that ungood that I put together something better. I had put together hope. For my own ungood, I had created a future good. Am I now afraid that my new outlook won't make sense? But why don't I just let my new outlook? But why don't I just let myself be guided by whatever happens? I shall have to run myself be guided by whatever happens. Sorry, I keep this. I shall have to run the holy risk of chance and replace fate with probability. Sorry, I have that cough still. I don't understand what I saw. I don't even know if I saw it, since my eyes ended up not being separate from what I saw, only in an unexpected rippling of the lines, only in an anomaly in the uninterrupted continuity of my culture, did I for an instant experience life-giving death, that purified death that made me sort through the forbidden waft of life. Saying the name of life is forbidden. And I almost said it. I almost couldn't disentangle myself from its weft, which would have been the destruction of my age inside me. Perhaps what happened to me is an understanding, and for me to be true, I have to continue being separate from it. Have to continue not understanding it. All sudden understanding very closely approximate a clear non-understanding. plot of this book is extremely simple, stunningly simple. It's a woman who enters a room and kills a cockroach. And then she eats it. But during that scene, she experiences a metaphysical epiphany of sorts. That's just context for this next one. The cockroach was touching me through with its black, faceted, shiny, neutral look, and now I began to let it touch me. In fact, I had struggled all my life against the deep desire to let myself be touched, and I had struggled because I wasn't able to allow the death of what I call my goodness, the death of my human goodness. But now I didn't want to fight against it anymore. There had to be a goodness, so other that it wouldn't resemble goodness. I didn't want to fight anymore. With disgust, with despair, with courage, I gave in. I had waited too long, and now I wanted to. Did I want to only at that very moment? No. Or else I would have left the room long ago. I simply would have scarcely noticed the cockroach. How many times before had I come across cockroaches and turned in another direction? I gave in, but with a fear and a sundering. Okay. We're gonna do one more because I don't want to ruin it for myself. Read too much of it before I really get into the thick of it. My love, it's like the blandest nectar. It's like the air, which in itself has no smell at all. Up to then, my corrupted senses were mute to the taste of things. But my most archaic and demonic of thirsts had led me, subterraneously, to collapse all constructs. Sinful thirst was guiding me. And I know now that tasting the taste of that almost nothingness is the God's secret joy. It is a nothingness that is God, and that has no taste. In the meantime, I lived in the silence of what 3 millennia from now, after it had worn away and had been raised again, would again be stairs, cranes, men, and buildings. I was living the prehistory of a future, like a woman who had never had children, but would have them 3 millennia from now. I was living today on the oil that would gush forth in those 3 millennia. Okay, that's it. Thank you, everyone, for listening. I appreciate and hope that I hope you're having a nice day, night, week, whatever. I don't know what to say. I'm stunned. I really want to read this and finish it. I'm not that far. But I've just been so I've read a lot about this book. And it's fascinating. So I'll probably do this again once I'm